Yeah, I really should have fast-forwarded the instant I was done with the bosses and finished all the dialogue there. Would have definitely simplified things, but with how little story there is in this game, it feels like it'd be way too easy to just fast-forward through a well and truly obscene amount of the game overall. Still, on the other hand, I do want this game to be done, so maybe I'll be a bit more free with fast-forwarding later in this clip. I'm sorry, did Midori get knocked out for a second time? Or did I make a mistake when I was cutting the footage and preparing for this clip? Because that feels incredibly similar to how things went in the previous clip. We get attacked from behind, and there's nothing we can really do in the fight to prevent one of our mages from getting knocked out, specifically Midori. Though I suppose I wouldn't be surprised if it happened to me twice. Again, it's more a matter of luck than skill around here. Well, this certainly isn't a fight we need to be worried about, that's for sure. At the very least, these Cyclopses don't seem to have anything all that special about them. No magical spells as far as I can tell, despite the genie-inspired clothes. No way to inflict status effects. Considering some of the sorts of enemies we've been seeing at this stage of the game, dealing with the Cyclopses is actually kind of a relief. Even though this dungeon was less brutal to us than some of the early ones, it still feels like we're burning through healing items at a rapid pace. Again, that's got me feeling pretty worried about how things are gonna go when we get to the final dungeon of the game, because I am very certain that pulling back for supplies there would be quite the trek. Well, at least Midori wasn't knocked out this time when the enemy managed to come at us from behind. I suppose that's something. Huh. Kinda strange to see Carmine doing less damage than Azul. I guess the new bow and arrows are especially effective against this particular foe. Right. No hidden paths over here. Possibly a waste of time to check, but it's not like we're in any hurry at the moment. Should I bother asking how someone with a bow and arrow could manage to accidentally shoot himself? The best I can really imagine is that he fired straight into the air, wandered around a bit, and the arrow landed right on top of him from above. Anyway, we're done with this dungeon. Back to flying around and finding things to do before we try to hit the final dungeon. Flying around, that will probably have to be done on the other airship. At the very least, we have to eventually deal with Bahamut, and Leviathan could use some attention as well. And the only way we're gonna get to either of them is to do some awkward leapfrogging over some mountains. Considering the fact that the bigger airship has its own stores, lets you rest without spending anything, and can help you in battle if you run into random encounters while flying, it's amazing that the only thing I actually give a damn about it is that one minor gimmick that will never be repeated in this series ever again. If it wasn't for the fact that then I'd stick with the airship that's capable of going underwater, even after the point where going underwater is even needed. It's kind of weird how that works, and I'm not even gonna bother trying to figure out why I feel that way. I've got enough hang-ups in this game. We just need to get a move on and keep trying to get stronger as we prepare for the final dungeon. A dungeon where we're going to end up meeting the main villain of the game for the first time. The guy has so little build-up that it makes Golbez and Garland seem pretty damn complex and well built up in comparison. With Golbez from Final Fantasy IV, that makes sense. He was the first ever villain in a game with an actual narrative. There were actual character interactions. We could genuinely like some of the individuals in the story, and chuckle as they spoke to one another, or feel something about how they were motivated and why, or even feel sad about them dying. It wasn't an especially great story, and they did too many false deaths, but hey, it was the first time the franchise ever tried to do anything like that. But the fact that I somehow feel more for Garland, the character in the absolute original game, before storytelling was even really a thing in this franchise, feels pretty rough. It's not like Final Fantasy I did all that much to build him up. We met him at the start of the game for the absolute first quest of the franchise. Then we were surprised to see him again when we went through the final dungeon and took out the 4 elemental fiends for a second time. It probably would have been better if I had Azul as the archer class in here, but I want him to have magical charges for when we run into the next major hostile. Part of me kinda wants to see how a summoner would hold out against the likes of Leviathan when we already have Odin. The other kinda wants the option to switch to the very familiar Black Mage class if I feel the Leviathan is gonna be too troublesome for anything other than Azul's best. Does that make me complacent or stubborn? Is there even really a difference between stubborn and complacent, or are they essentially synonyms? Well, at the very least, this dungeon is giving us plenty of items. Items that I'm gonna forget about as we keep pushing forward, but still. Should I bother asking why these crab things are able to put our team to sleep, or why their names are Plant Teeth? I wouldn't be surprised if I mispronounced that. I'm also a bit surprised that Leviathan's dungeon isn't more watery. Hell, to enter the dungeon, we had to take a canoe into a serpent thing that was bouncing back and forth in this lake. A serpent thing that I'm very convinced is Leviathan himself, but no. It looks like we're wandering inside of a cave system, not the inside of a massive monster. Though, maybe it's a bit ridiculous on my part to wish there was something more than this in terms of visuals. Hell, I'm fairly certain we're not going to see all that much in terms of different-looking tile sets in this series for a while. Final Fantasy IV got away with using a good number of the same bits of ground and several of the knickknacks from the original Final Fantasy. I wouldn't be surprised if Final Fantasy V used many of the same stuff for when we run around as well, but we'll see when we get there. Should I bother asking why the coral growing out of the heads of these remora is pink? Not that I have any idea what sort of color would make that look more menacing, especially since the greenish teeth and blue flesh on that thing somehow aren't really doing anything for me. Maybe if I was a bit more of an artist or character designer, I'd have something more meaningful to say about how the game could have improved the looks of the various monsters we're supposed to be fighting against. But hey, I suppose it was more important that they got the looks of the classes we played as to look right. That's certainly solid enough, even if I wish that each individual character had some little detail that stayed with them from one class to the next. I probably should have gotten some more high potions before entering this dungeon. It's funny how I barely find it in me to give a damn when one of our team has been turned to stone. Sure, it's annoying, but we still gain just as much experience points for him as we would if he wasn't petrified there. Ah! Guess we've just seen Leviathan sprites. That's definitely different from the sprite he has in Final Fantasy IV. He had a human form outside of the battle screen then, though, so... Shouldn't the fact that we blatantly have the powers of the crystals be enough proof that we're the chosen warriors of light? At the very least, it's gotta be awkward to be the guy who's supposed to test the abilities of the chosen ones, then accidentally kill the chosen ones when doing so. Definitely no surprise that his gimmick is that he hits the entire team all in one turn. Midori's definitely gonna get some good practice healing the entire team at once. As a side note, I'm not entirely sure why, but I was kind of hoping that Rama would look more impressive when he started hitting Leviathan with a lot of lightning bolts. I know the damage numbers were good enough, and the fact that he's an old man with a staff and drops lightning from the sky is really all we need to see to convey what's going on. I suppose I'm just spoiled by the idea of summon animations being especially good in a Final Fantasy game. This is the first time in the franchise they had summons. It's not really a surprise that they aren't going to see all that much from the summons here, since, well, this is the absolute first game they were even a thing in. Well, that summon apparently does absolutely nothing to the bastard. Right. And of course we got hit by another tsunami before Midori could hit Carmine there. Because trying to guess what order things are going to happen around here is a waste of time. I'm pretty sure that most of my spent Phoenix Downs in this game have been because of that kind of mistimed bullshit. Well, at least this time Midori's healing came after the tsunami. Place your bets on if that's gonna be the case in this next turn as well. And holy shit, Odin was amazingly ineffective here. Wait, why is it that this time Odin did a protective spell instead of an offensive one? If you're gonna summon something, it helps to know what your summon is gonna do. Son of a fucking bitch. I'm not about to deal with a fight where we somehow have reflect on, and my primary means of healing is magical in nature. Sure, that would have been incredibly useful against Bahamut, but this wasn't Bahamut, and that full team reflect was not planned at all. So, let's try that again, only this time we're gonna be able to rely on what spells Azul is gonna be thrown around here. You certainly can't say I didn't bother to try using summon spells in this game at all, or that it didn't try to use one of the best summons in the game. Right, let's see how this goes this time. And again, Quake is not doing all that much to our enemy. I swear, it's like the more advanced spells just aren't worth actually spending. Ah, well, at least it's not a waste of MP or something, because MP doesn't exist in this game. We have some other form of keeping track of our magical spells, so if we use something in a higher tier, it does nothing to lose the charges meant for a lower tier. And once again, Carmine is down, because of course I somehow didn't learn my lesson after the previous attempt against this exact same boss. Guess we'll be trying that fight once again. Considering I didn't decide to cut the footage for this bit, maybe that means the third time's gonna be the charm. Okay, this time we're opening up with a Thunder spell. Really, I was sensible enough to open up with using Ranma when we were trying to use a summoner against the bastard in the first try. It's honestly a bit impressive that the Black Mage has felt so effective for so much of this game, though. Of course, it's also a bit insane that the game designers didn't have any class to upgrade the magic users into this far into the game, when the Warrior and Monk had outright upgraded forms. And I'm sure Carmine is going to be knocked down again simply because we're not using a healing spell at the start of this fight again. It's not like Eroka is going to do all that much damage here. But then I suppose Leviathan doesn't throw an attack at us this time for us to need to heal, so I suppose that's a step in the right direction. And holy shit, that Thundaga spell did an obscene amount of damage. So obscene that it makes Rama, the guy who's supposed to be the elemental force of lightning in this franchise, seem pathetic in comparison. Though maybe I'm just being overly harsh on the old man. At least Rama didn't sabotage us the same way Odin did. I was kind of hoping that Odin would throw his legendary spear at Leviathan. Or do you mean to tell me that they named someone Odin after the Allfather of Norse mythology and didn't bother to give him Gugnir, the spear that is just as distinctive for him as his horse, Sleipnir? Well, that tsunami was one of the most merciful ones we've seen so far. And of course, the next one came too fast for us to send out a healing spell in the aftermath of the previous attack. Well, thank you for doing the vast majority of the damage here, Azul. Carmine and Brett certainly weren't slouches either, but dear God, it's obvious that Azul was the main reason we got that done alive. Oh, we'll take your power, but don't expect us to use it, not after the way that Odin fucked things up so badly last time. Okay, that was a lot of healing done there. Well, time to start getting out of this dungeon, and, well, I may as well fast forward through this to save at least some time. It's not like we're gonna see anything new on our way back out. Part of me feels like I should have changed Azul's class just for the sake of giving him a class he'd be leveling up in. But again, the Black Mage is so insanely useful for boss fights that it's downright ridiculous. Am I supposed to find that name kind of monster. Clever. Seriously, a lion head on something with a seal's body, and we call it a sea lion. Though I'm more confused at the fact that it's got a golden necklace and that red belt than the fact that it's an all-black sea creature. Seriously, why not make the lion's mane gold or red? If you wanted to go with that kind of color scheme, that's weird. Right. Just one more floor to go, and we're finally out of here. Shouldn't take too much longer. It's not like this floor was obscenely large or had an especially complicated maze for us to have to wander through. Well, time to replenish our eye potion supply before we have to worry about the next dungeon. And we may as well sell a shitload of stuff while we're at it. Not that we have to worry about running out of money with the sort of income we're getting from the fights at this stage of the game, or how few things we actually need to buy this far in. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to leave the airship there. I did that practically out of reflex. And now we're once again entering Bahamut's lair. If anything, Odin could probably make this go in our favor. If I'm willing to have Azul shift to the summer class again, though. I'm gonna try to do Black Mage just because, yeah. Oof. The fact that I turned off the random encounters is just another massive sign to the fact that I'm getting pretty sick of this game at this point. Of course, the only reward for beating Bahamut that I'm gonna give a damn about is my own damn pride, so... it's not like we're ever gonna actually use Bahamut in battle after considering our summons have already proven they aren't as reliable as I'd hope. Oh wow, I wasn't expecting Midori to do that much damage with that spell. When moves are super effective around here, they're really super effective. Here's hoping that Mega Flare isn't gonna make me regret not giving everyone Reflect. Anyway, from here on, Midori's just gonna be doing full heals. Doing over 6,000 damage in 2 turns certainly feels like worth having us pretty open to that major attack. I probably shouldn't feel so relieved that Midori managed to get that heal through before the next Mega Flare. Definitely not the most efficient way to fight this boss, but hey, I'm hoping we've got enough going for us that we can get away with not doing things the way we were supposed to. That kind of seems to sum up how I feel about this game in general, really. And that does it. Bahamut is done for. That was certainly cutting things close. Wish I could say that's how it was planned from the start. But, no, that was pretty much luck. 27 clips in, I shouldn't be relying so much on luck getting us through. What can I say? I've gotten pretty damn sick of how this game wants us to do especially specific things to get the job done. It's just such an overplayed card. I certainly didn't complain about it so much in Final Fantasy IV when we used Reflect against the exact same monster when we got to him on the moon. Mostly because the way that game threw boss fights at us didn't feel as obnoxious as this game. Now that I think about it, since we fought dragons, behemoths, and some other especially fearsome creatures before we've even gotten to the final dungeon, Just what the hell is the final dungeon gonna throw at us when we finally get there? I mean, sure, there's gonna be especially weird stuff near the tail end, but what about the stuff at the start of the especially long dungeon? Well, at the very least, we can fly towards our next destination so I can save just outside of it. I could have sworn we were allowed past the statues now.